I learn from every interaction. I'm a very good learner. And so I learned from him that the fundamentals of somebody who's built a £1 billion business is still you. There's no fancy tools that you need. You don't need to go and buy a whole load of tech to make an efficient sales machine. It's about the basic principles of understanding what the customer wants, presenting value, making sure that's done quickly, efficiently, responsive to your customers, and you need to do what you say you're going to do.
Welcome to this, another episode of Pints of You. Here with me, Gary Goldsmith, your host in the Cavendish, in New Cavendish Street, with a friend of mine. Now, we are here with Nick Thomson today. Nick, thank you for coming, and cheers, sir.
Thank you for having me.
Brilliant. You are totally branded, so we don't really need to give you the intro.
No.
Now, for those of you who don't know, that Nick is an absolute superstar in the software world. He's currently desperate to be the Chief Revenue Officer, although that person doesn't know. He's the Chief Commercial Officer of what is Europe's largest software business. And we want to talk about loads of things, but with all of these events, I told you I'd throw you under a bus.
Yes.
Right, that's what mates do in a pub. I have written you a poem. Oh. Now my dyslexia takes over, right, and my inability to rhyme takes over.
So you're going to serenade me, is that?
Yeah, but if it goes well, I wrote it. If it doesn't, right, blame Bard.
Okay, all right, Bard.
Yes, I've raised my game. Yes. Nick Thomson, a tech entrepreneur's name. In the business world, he's risen to fame. As part of the Access Group, he leads the way, guiding growth both night and day. In the realm of technology, he's found his stride, a journey of success that will never... Oh, fucking hell. We're going to go again with that.
What was the end of that line going to be?
Yeah. I jumped two.
Do you want me to run my finger down it for you? See?
Oh yeah, run your okay. Well, we might just keep this in. Right. Anyway, right. Nick Thomson, a fuck off.
TikTok.
TikToker. Tickety TikTok. Come on.
Let's do it.
And breathe, Gary. Come on. You can do this. This time you can do this. Just calm yourself down.
Are we actually going to share this one? Because this is what happens on every one we do. But I'm going to do it because it's a short one. Bear with.
Yeah,
we've got 2 hours for this.
I've got time.
Nick Thomson, a tech entrepreneur's name. In the business world, he's risen to fame. As part of the Access Group, he leads the way, guiding growth both night and day. In the realm of technology, he's found his stride, a leader with innovation as his guide. With dedication drive, he's reached the top, a journey of success that will never stop. For our business network, he's the go-to star, a trusted advisor, both near and far. As a leader and mentor, he'll continue to thrive in the world of business. He will always thrive. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Nick Thomson, part of the leadership team of the juggernaut that is the Access Group. Whoa!
Well done, Gary. Well done. Oh, the fourth time lucky, but beautiful. There is no way you got that off Bard. That was far too personal and spot on for that to come off Bard. Surely.
I'll be honest. All right. I don't know why I put myself through this. Right. So
it's good. You're through.
We met when Access Group bought Vinny.
That's right.
And you came and did a few gigs for us.
Yes.
The Access Group is acquisitive.
Yep.
It's growing.
Yep.
Everything's about net gain, year on year, business by business. Yep. And you happen to be at the head of that growth and that sort of the commercial reality of making that growth a reality. Indeed. What, just chuck me some numbers. How big is Access Group today?
Just over 10 billion in valuation at the moment. And that's and growing steadily year over year. So we're on a path to hopefully have trebled that come a couple of years' time.
Okay.
So that gives you a feel for the top line numbers.
It's top line. How many different brands or products might that be, and how many acquisitions a year?
We've specialised the business into 9 divisions, so 9 specialist divisions that service the individual needs of independent industries. So in there, we acquire roughly this year, it'll be about 45, 46 businesses that we'll acquire this year that will amalgam into one of those divisions and then package them up and take them to market.
Have you heard of Sprint R yet?
No.
Oh, you're gonna love that. It's soon to launch to market, and now's
You're not doing this.
Are you trying to sell me something here? This is a sales pitch. This is reverse. Very well done.
I like it.
Very well done.
Literally, I mentioned it earlier. I've got an hour to shoehorn it in.
Yeah.
Have you heard of value? Right.
Let me guess. Is this pre-valuation, pre-revenue? Is it?
Oh yeah, but
okay.
it's Well, I'm only after like 12, 15 times.
0.
15 times my expected. I've also got a business, right? And I can't believe that people buy such shit names, right? So I bought a business called Val, VAL.
Yeah.
YOU.com, and it tells people the value of their business. That's launching on Friday.
Oh, well, good.
So,
there you go.
Everyone will know it by then. You probably would have bought it by the time this shit comes out.
Exactly.
So it's good.
Exactly.
So there's loads of things we can talk about. One, you've got a job that there is probably a billion people in the real world who would absolutely be desperate for that job.
Yeah.
How the fuck did you get it?
Rude.
And yes,
rude.
Well, we could also talk about the fact that you do swimming, running, and you can't get on a bike, so you can't be a triathlete.
Yeah,
because that's quite.
I hate bikes.
Nick Day's here, and you know Nick, and you know he's an absolute rock star in that triathlete world. So we can talk about that later. Yeah, you're a third shitter than Nick. So how did we get you to this point where you're running? I mean, if you're going to run a business, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, so entrepreneur to intrapreneur, how that journey happened. So your whole backstory. I'd love to talk to you about the boom bust of the WeWork tech generation. So everyone came up with an idea, nicked some money off granddad, and actually just burnt it whilst flying drones around an office. The importance of managing a business and not just the products, because don't focus all your time on the products when actually you need to make sure that investor capital is being looked after.
Yes.
I mean, this
is
mate.
This is a long question.
Well, we could talk about those. Well, we've got plenty of time. We've got an hour. We can talk about the whole investor landscape and how that's changed since 23, which was people just burning holes in pockets, to now, capital, and nobody doing anything. And the one that really rings true for me, acquiring businesses and plugging them together. Yeah. Because I tried to do it.
It's hard.
It's really hard. And we don't always get it right?
Yep. Indeed. Yeah, I mean,
So let's start at the beginning.
Let's start at the first one. Okay, why did I get a job like this? That was the gist of the first one. Is that right?
How on earth?
Yeah. Well, I guess probably I'm not your usual cat in a job like this either. I mean, I'm actually a trained pharmacist, would you believe? So I'm the guy with white coat and boots behind the counter. That's what I did as a degree, and I did that as a job. But I was terrible. Like, I was a really, really bad pharmacist. Good with numbers, but terrible pharmacist. I have so many tales of badness.
Is there something about an EpiPen?
Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, for those listeners who understand or have seen it before, but some kids obviously allergic to peanuts and got those adrenaline pens you stab yourself with.
But you just wanted to see what it did.
I did. I did. And I mean, imagine the guy, you're in there getting your pills or whatever from a Boots on a Saturday afternoon, and the pharmacist stood there. I just literally they handed it to me, and I just looked at it and I thought, I've never seen one of these actually work. And I pressed the button, thinking that'll be fun. No worries, there's a fire right at the other end and I'll have a look at it. But instead I pressed the button, and that's the end the needle comes out. So literally in the middle of a Boots, I had a needle going through my finger, and swearing like mad. But they didn't even send me home. So this is the era I grew up in. Even in that world where you've stabbed yourself, you're still going to just take a plaster on that and carry on.
But surely was that not like a little bit of speed? Or
it went through and out the other side. So it was all spraying all over the pharmacy, not through me. So I was lucky in that regard, Gary. It was the good of that situation was it came out the other side, and I was all right.
Someone gave me one of those, the diet injections that you take. Yeah. And they were really expensive. It was like £300 a pop. Yeah. And I did it, and I couldn't make it work. It just actually squirted out. And then the second one went in and made me violently ill for 3 days.
Well, that's how you
that's
weight.
How to lose weight.
Yeah,
that's brilliant.
Agreed.
You could also basically keep reheating rice. I mean, that works as well. Yeah. Or undercooked chicken. Yeah. All these are great diet advice. So try it, children. Yes. It's fun.
Yeah, definitely recommended.
Yeah.
So that's probably why I was a terrible pharmacist, because I'm recommending that sort of stuff.
So you're a really poor pharmacist.
Dead poor pharmacist. But I come from my old man was an entrepreneur, and he'd started a business, and so I, in that world of pharmacy, a lot of contracting, and the world that you guys will all know. So I was contracting, and my old man had started a payroll business, and so I fell into that with him.
Hence knowing Nick.
And that ultimately just grew from there. So we started developing software. we had this master plan of selling financial services to people through their pay slips. That turned out to be a terrible idea back in this. The thing when this was before cloud was cloud. This was 2002.
Just want to color in some of the story here. Where did you learn coding?
I didn't.
So you just made it up?
Didn't. So I did all the customer facing stuff.
Okay.
You know what it's like being an entrepreneur. You just pick up any job. So it was a bit of product management, meeting customers, sales, a bit of back office invoicing and all the rest. You're doing everything when you're in those early stage businesses. But so I got a really good grounding as we built that business up, and we were selling through resellers and didn't know what you were doing. Didn't know what the level of training you were getting on the job at that point, because you were just trying to survive. You've built a business, you get to learn the business principles. In the world of software and cloud, everything is new. We're not developers. My dad and I were not developers, so you're dependent on third parties for your product that you're out there selling. But then we were selling through, branded resellers and everything else. So suddenly I was learning about how to go to market through channel, how to sell directly, how to implement, do customer success. So it was a lot of different jobs that you were just.
How did you learn where to? I'm actually doing this as a bit of an education for myself.
Yeah.
How did you learn where to price point? What profit margins, what the finance behind all of this, or was it literally back of a fag packet?
I mean, in those early days, it's about product market fit. You've just got to make sure, and that's the first phase of any business, that you've got product market fit and you've got repeatability, and then the price will start to work itself out. You can't worry too much about gross margin in the early days because you're not doing something that's repeatable yet, so it's going to likely be unprofitable. So you have to focus on get product market fit, and once you have that and it starts to be repeating, then you start to look at where you can optimize. But often people will optimize for profit before you've got growth. You've got to get growth first, then profit.
Okay, so we'll come back to this.
Yes, we will.
Because a lot of businesses in the US, get billion-pound valuations long before they're actually tickling into profit.
Yes, of course.
And they're gaining market share.
Yes.
And in Europe, that isn't vogue. That is not how people do it over here.
Yeah, and I think that has shifted for sure, right? I mean, that whole focus on growth over profits was a mantra when there was lots of capital washing through the market, but it's still the same principle, right? You can value on growth. You can get an even higher valuation multiple if you've got profitable growth and low churn. So, it's the levels of how much product market fit have you got. How big is that market you're trying to serve? And a lot of the American businesses are serving very large markets with the products that they're taking, and if they're demonstrating product market fit, that's great, but you still haven't proved profit at that stage.
That's hard. So how did it go from now as an entrepreneur, payroll solution to market? Yeah. What's the gap between there and today?
Yeah. So we sold that business in 2007 to Ceridian. So we built it up. We were one of the UK's first payroll in the cloud. We sold that in 2007, and then I ended up working for the acquirer and worked my way through there. Then ended up going to North America.
Was that a culture shock from being part of the elite boss of bosses to suddenly working with a big corp?
Do you know, it's funny, I guess that's maybe why I'm suited to the type of job I am, because I think I actually found the whole entrepreneurial journey, that stress that comes with how you're paying the payroll and the mortgages of all the people that you're dependent on, I found that quite stressful. And I was in my 20s building a payroll company. That is it wasn't quite the astronaut journey I thought I was on when I was a kid. I was like, why am I worrying about how Mary gets paid on a Friday?
But the weird thing is, an entrepreneur of business, you worry about yourself being paid last.
Yes.
You got to make sure everybody else is paid. And if there's anything left, you might get a tickle.
Yeah.
Where a lot of people think, well, I'm paying myself first and work out a sack.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely the other way for me. And that responsibility to your team and your people, it's always been that way.
100%.
But then when you go in, I think what it did, I had this kind of review, certainly when you're selling payroll, it's like you see these bigger brands, and people are typically, in those days, certainly were buying from the bigger brands rather than the challengers, because no one wants their payroll data to be with some small company, right? But then it opened my eyes when I went into that world about just the level of inefficiency you tend to find inside these big businesses. And a lot of people go into them with a kind of career to just float in the middle management ranks and don't deliver.
Yeah.
So I think I was described by my boss at the time, he expected me to be what he called an irritant. Somebody who would go in and would challenge and push and everything else. But it's all fine and well your boss telling you that. But then it's actually quite a challenging career path.
It's quite an intellectual world. They call me 4-letter words generally, but an irritant.
Yes, well, we're in the polite world, the polite world of British software companies. But It was a shock to the system, but then equally there's a whole load of resources that when you can harness those resources, you can get some spectacular results because suddenly you're not as capital constrained as you were in the small business. So it's about being able to spend the money wisely.
And also as a leader of a brand,
Yeah.
you've got people to do stuff.
Yes.
You don't have to actually put your broom up an arse and clean the place as well. You've got people to take on. If you come up with a great idea, there are facilitators to make it. So if someone's a great ideas and thinker, you get more ideas going to market.
100%. And I mean, and again, the challenge with it always is, I think you've got to make sure in those large organizations you get slowed down by bureaucracy, because that's the thing that kills you. The red tape from regulation and everything else slows the teams down. They've all got their own KPIs that aren't necessarily tied, and measures that they're looking to get their bonus that don't tie to the objectives of the company to grow. And I think it's just, you always have to hang on back to like, what are you trying to do with your company? Like you've got a product you're trying to sell, you want customers to like it, and you want them to come back and do repeat business. I mean, the fundamentals don't change, but they do get lost in amongst politics. So
it feels like you're a square peg in a square hole, and have obviously done well.
Yeah.
In that environment of being in your first grown-up business.
Yes. Yeah.
I'd grown up, with a small G and a small up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it took me to Canada. I took my entire family over there, and we lived in Canada for 4 years to run corporate development. And I think I called myself the plastic entrepreneur because I made some money off that transaction, but I then went to work for a chap, David Ossip, who in Canada, and I would call him a gold-plated, nailed to the floor entrepreneur. Like, he built his business, sold it for $1 billion, like a top-end money. And again, the thing and the lesson that I learned on everything, and I think that's probably one of my the skills I have, is I learn from every interaction. I'm a very good learner, and so I learned from him that the fundamentals of somebody who's built £1 billion business is still you. There's no fancy tools that you need. You don't need to go and buy a whole load of tech to make an efficient sales machine. It's about the basic principles of understanding what the customer wants, presenting value, making sure that's done quickly and efficiently, responsive to your customers, and you need to do what you say you're going to do. Like, the principles don't change; they just get lost in politics and excuses. So,
how long did you stay in Canada?
3 years. 3 years.
And what was the move then?
What do you mean, coming back?
Yeah.
Well, my wife and I got a bit homesick. We had a daughter over there, and we were distant from our family. So our daughter's now got a Canadian passport and threatens every single day that the moment she's old enough, she's off to Canada. You're like, all right, okay.
Whistler in the ski season.
Well, probably. So we decided to come back to be closer to family, and so I decided then to go back to. I thought maybe I'll go back to startup world, and I just didn't enjoy the early stage working for another founder and I was leading and running sales, but essentially wasn't running a sales team. It was a very small group, an early stage offshore development team, and I didn't enjoy that. That was a year and a bit of work. We got it refinanced, and we went through the financing journey, and we did enough, but I was like, this isn't for me. I prefer the world of helping with what you, as you rightly coined it, as intrapreneurial activity. So enjoyed it. It's good. So I ended up moving back into other companies. So that's kind of been the journey. It's not your usual path, because I didn't grow up just running a sales team or just running a customer success team or running product management. I had to do a bit of both. And so jack of all trades.
Were you a headhunt target for Access Group?
Interestingly enough, the chap who bought my company back in 2007 with Ceridian went on to run a division of Access, and he basically called me January of last year and said, look, great opportunity, you should come over, and the skills that you've brought and done and learned that's going to apply well in the Access world. So that was my headhunt over to Access.
And tell me about the Access story, because there's a business that's, I mean, it's a monster. Yeah, it's a monster. Yeah, it's a big business.
Yeah, I mean, look, to my mind, Chris Bain and John Jorgensen, who sort of have driven the growth of Access. I mean, it's a true. I said this to a couple of folks recently. It's a true British software success story. These guys know exactly. They set out with a vision to take a company that was turning over 10 million in revenue and grew it to be over 10 billion in valuation. They've done that by relentless focus on performance, but in a very, unifying all the teams, which is a hard thing in business. And again, probably all the business leaders that be listening to something like this will always wonder about how do you get that unity into a team. And and they just stuck to their plan. Everything is based in data. Like, you cannot make a decision in the company, you can't make a bet, you can't make an investment if you haven't got a plan for how it's going to deliver growth and performance. And then you measure against it. It's not about being wrong or right. It's just about making sure you always have a plan, measure against it, and learn. So it fits my personality type down to the ground.
So you've told me previously that each business has to give you X percentage growth.
Mm-hmm.
What's the number?
Well, again, there's no mad science to this stuff. You buy every business you buy, you want to keep it growing at least at the rate you buy it at, right? So you've got to get that growing, and it's got to be profitable. And so you then just stack the two. The stuff you buy has to grow. The stuff you bought has to keep growing, and then you layer the things on top, and suddenly your revenues will climb exponentially the bigger you get. So you of course you want normal metrics. You want something that's growing like 20% on revenue. You want to make sure you're driving EBITDA that's 20, at least profit of 20%, 30, 40. You try and get more leverage into each business, make it run more efficiently. So.
And in terms of efficiencies, do you drive a HQ sort of function in terms of payroll bill? Do you let the businesses stand alone? What is it? What's the secret sauce, or that sort of the drive-by brilliance that Access Group brings to these businesses?
Well, look, I think there's two parts to that, and it's not a straight road. So of course, that makes a lot of sense. You get a lot of that benefit when you buy a business, and you can centralize certain things like payroll and like accounts payable and things like that. But you still need to retain the identity of that business and how it operates, because it was the reason you acquired it was because of how it was growing. We're not trying to acquire end of life products. There's lots of businesses backed by private equity that buy stuff that's at the end of life and just let it run. But that's not what we're trying to do. Our stuff is about buying things that are growing and creating a growth story and helping them get more efficient, yes. But to keep something growing at 20% year over year, you've got to keep investing in it. You can't just pull back on investments. That means more development. That means more engagement with the market. So the model in and of itself is easy to say. It's all the skill of the execution, and that's where the difference is.
So we were talking about building a team out. So as the team grows, I think there's a shelf life to potentially your financial controller, and then your FD, and then your CEO. There are different people who are fit for purpose at different parts of that journey.
For sure.
And I think people have to be honest about that, because otherwise your loyalty to them is actually that your loyalty to one person is disrupting the rest of the business. Yeah. And you have to make some hard calls.
Yes.
But ultimately you're serving an end goal or an end aim that a lot of people have bought into. So when they've sold their company, they've sold their baby.
Yes.
What they don't want to do is you having loyalty to 5 people.
But I think that comes down to, I've got a finite lifespan, right? So I'll have a finite lifespan for where my skills are particularly suited to the job and the challenge that's been given to me. And then there's nothing wrong in that. A friend of mine who was involved at Skyscanner, who's a CFO there, he described the model of pyramids. And so if your pyramid is growing, and let's say you're at the top of the pyramid this year, when it grows next year and that pyramid is bigger, you're not guaranteed to still be at the top of that pyramid. You might now be in the middle of that pyramid. So, but again, that's not a denigration to somebody. That's not trying to say you've got worse over the year. It's just the skill set that you need might not be the problem that business needs to be solving now to go to its next bit of growth. But take your skills to somewhere else and use your skills that you're very good at the right place. And that's the thing where, as long as you normalize that discussion, you don't turn it into, it's all about loyalty. It's about being clear about what you're good at and enjoy doing that. It's just, I know what I'm really good at, and I know where I fit in the grand scheme of things. And this world of sales and commercial work that I just hate intensely. So if my job ever becomes I'll know my journey's coming to it.
Do you know that I'm really pleased you said that. When I wanted to become a sales director or a managing director for a business, I kind of fancied being an intrapreneur.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to spend more money than I could possibly afford, and it would go slower. So I basically went out to prepare myself for what would be that perfect person.
Yeah.
So how do I make myself totally 100% viable?
Yeah.
It'd be a bad decision not to hire me. So I worked for all different business types, learned all of the different crafts, so that when I turned up anywhere, I thought I'd be the natural choice.
Yeah.
And funny enough, it works.
Yeah.
But what I didn't try to do is go to that job too soon, get found out, and then basically be usurped by the person I hired because they were better equipped and better talented.
Yeah. I guess I always look at the position that I'm in. It was something that you want to try and make yourself redundant. Like, you want to try and build good teams underneath you that got skills and competence and everything else.
And then you go learning.
Well, and that's it. And I do think that's the hardest thing, though, right? Like, that's the people between a fixed mindset and a growth one. It's like you have to be prepared to learn and just recognize you don't know it all, and you'll be open to the learns. But people get very defensive, and certainly when bonuses are on the line and all the rest of it. Like it's easy to say, hard to do, and I think that's why a career in entrepreneurship is not an easy one that everyone could go along, because it does require that you're an irritant. So we started this whole story out, right?
Well, they're talking to irritants. So my mate Lawrence Doe is the longest serving person of S3 in terms of his whole history.
Yeah.
A total irritant, but I love him dearly.
Yeah.
And he started work for us when he was a window cleaner.
Yeah.
And as the business evolved, he's certainly better at that job than I would be.
Yeah.
And he's absolutely fit for purpose and still there.
Yeah.
So that speaks volumes. So there are certain people, horses for courses.
Yeah, and your ego just has to be able to take the fact that you're an irritant, that you're irritating. That's how people describe you. So if you can live with that, you can live with that.
It's funny at RDLC we say drop your ego at the door, except for Gary Goldsmith, because literally someone's got to run the show, and I find it very difficult.
Someone's got to hold the coat.
You little bugger. One of the other things we're talking about is how to put these businesses together. So when you have different egos in a room, so you've got some CEOs, they've run a fiefdom, say, and now they're running in a listed business that's grown up and mature.
Yeah.
How does that work? And how?
I think the reality is that in certain circumstances it doesn't, right? So for certain people, that sort of environment move into stricter controls, because at a certain point your growth has to come by being forensic, right? You have to look at smaller parts of the business and work out what's the 1% you want to change that's going to drive the biggest lift of performance, and that's just not in some people's spirit. That said, it all depends on the entrepreneur who's inbound, because some of them can be in the same situation I was in, where actually you like having resources, that you're suddenly not constrained by resources, and if you can thrive in that world, that's how you create something that's worth 5, 6, 7, 8 billion, and you probably create more wealth for yourself being backed and can harness that power than if you step out and take the risk again. But some people just like taking risk and doing the early stage stuff and don't want any of the noise, and so I think you just got to be able to bucket the egos into that and be honest about it, because they're Access, I could probably name you 4 or 5 people there that who have thrived in the environment. You know, they've absolutely thrived as entrepreneurs coming in and have then used their skills, but they tend to sit in positions like mine. They're irritants, right? Because they won't sit just neatly into a position. But even now we're evolving our structure, because you get to such a size, you still need that energy, because there's drive that comes from these people, like the fuel of an entrepreneur with someone on a mission. I always do that, a vision and a mission. Like someone who's got that energy, you do still need that momentum in behind your business.
Okay, can we just trademark that, please? Mission.
It's combination.
Yeah, I'm having that. Thank you very much. Gift. And when you get these businesses, you don't want yes men. You want people with their creative ideas and their initiative and their power and their energy.
Yes.
Is there a common theme that if you jump onto this journey, if you jump onto the Access juggernaut train, the one thing that we aren't going to settle for is anything less than maximum effort and maximum growth?
Yeah, I mean, like that.
And if you just say, we can't do that, I don't really fancy that, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I think even you posted something about this the other day. You know, people will always bring up problems, and ultimately the question is more around about, right, there's always going to be problems. You got to live with that. The question is, how do you adjust and solve those problems? And so, I just think that mindset is what's the difference, and you have to cut through at a certain point. Letting people go, or letting people go on to do something else somewhere else, can often be a blessing for them, because they don't want to do that part of the journey that you're now on.
Bill Buttrell once said, I got really upset with some people, and he said, you just got to let them go. But by letting them go, they're actually going to go do something they'd be better at, they'd be more comfortable with, and they have a better quality of life. And eventually, although they won't feel it today, or for a month, they thank you for it later on.
But I think it's by expectations. I mean, again, what I love about what Chris and JJ have built at Access is that it is a culture. It's not driven by, we've got breakneck pace growth, far outstripping most other software companies in the continent. It's coming not because there's screaming matches internally about you've got to hit this, you've got to do this number, do what it takes. Like, there's not that, or you're fired. There's none of that. There's none of that culture. The culture is entirely about being systematic, being methodical in how you do it, which appeals to the scientist in me. Do you know what I mean? Like, back in the, that's pharmacist.
I'm maths and physics, right?
There you go.
That floats my boat.
So that's all it is. Everything has to come with a plan and be tied to a number. And sometimes, as a storytelling Scot, I get told off for being anecdotal, but I have a very analytical boss as well, so it's fun.
Sure. Well, you brought it up first. So we're both Scottish, apparently, because I went to one of those sort of really dodgy shops in Windsor. They do your heritage.
Yeah.
So, oy vey, I'm a Scot.
Did they read your stones at the same time?
So should we talk about diversity and inclusion?
Oh, you want to do that now?
Yeah, because basically it's not a dress, it's a man's Scot. So that's being the case. I think there's room here, because I think, well, you said we differ in terms of style of delivery on this.
Yeah.
But I don't like inclusion or diversity, that anything which is prescribed. I truly believe in meritocracy, and I want the best person to do the job that they are aligned for.
Correct.
But you have a spin on this.
Well, you and I agree on the end state, right? So you ultimately want the best person in the job that's qualified to do the job or will thrive in the job.
Exactly.
The problem is that, again, bias creeps in everywhere, right? We're all based on we're the sum of our experiences. And so therefore you'll hire based on the sum of your experiences. But ultimately that can get in the way of getting the best person in front of you for that job. And that I fundamentally believe in, because it's the person that you might not otherwise be qualified for a job, but is perfectly capable of solving the problems that job entails. And that's the challenge for me. Like it's how you deal with that. So it's not for a box ticking exercise. A box ticking exercise, it's all wrong. But diversity, equity, inclusion is probably, to my mind, the number one opportunity to drive business performance. Because if you can get the best people in the best seats, and you're making sure that you've got an equal playing field, then that happens. So now let me make this real for you, right? Let's take an example, very close to your world. Just the simple case of a job advert, right? Just take the case of a job advert. You write a job advert, and in fact, I'm even going to take it to a different example. 2006. I did a study with McDonald's and David Fairhurst, and the study that said that every single McDonald's store that employs more than one person over six, and you can look this up. It's with.
They're not a good example right now, because they're the bullion state that is McDonald's.
Yes, I understand. Okay. But the business benefit they showed was, for each one of their branches, if they employed one person over the age of 60 in a branch, the customer satisfaction in that branch was 20% higher. So the business reason for hiring somebody of that age and maturity was significant. How many people in that branch could write a job advert that would attract a 60-year-old? Not many.
Okay. So
you do.
No. So we're going to have a fight, but actually we agree with exactly the same point.
Okay.
This, for anybody who runs a recruitment business, is absolutely golden, because I'm actually face to face talking to my customer's customer, the most senior person in the business, looking at hiring, and I will say to you, sir, I would prefer to speak to more people, to come to you with someone who's a 60% fit technology-wise, 120% fit personality-wise, who fits your culture, who's willing to learn, who will add value in every way. 100%. If I speak to you and say, you're going to hate me for this, that on paper, it's absolutely wrong. But personally, brilliant, and you need to tell it person, you'll go, all right, I trust you once, Gary, but if you get it wrong, I never trust you again, which I think is fair. Everybody down the layers within most organizations, especially talent acquisition, especially HR, especially hiring managers who are scared to get it wrong, just basically said, I need to have these skills at this level of experience. What does experience got to do with ability?
Yeah, correct.
Right. Correct. So I've got a really old footballer versus a really young one, right? But if I can speak to you, people will buy them. If I speak to your HR teams, they won't do that. So it's not my problem. Fix your own problem.
But we'll agree. But I think when it comes down to it, you just take that example, right? If you end up writing a job, if you and I write a job advert, typically because of our male-dominated experience, we'll write a job advert that's with male-dominant language, right? You post that up on the web. And we've done all the studies on this. If that then turns off half the audience that would have applied, you're missing out on a female that might be more qualified for the job. So it's about the fact that DE&I is about the fact that the person who would be best fit for the job hasn't applied. It's not about the metrics of how many apply for each one of the roles. It's about the fact who doesn't apply for the jobs that would have been a better fit for that position. And that's where I think it's huge business benefit if you can double the candidate volume that a recruiter is looking at because you've written an inclusive advert rather than an exclusive advert. But the problem is, Gary, you can't detect it.
Oh no, there's two more layers to this. If would you prefer all the CVs coming to you anonymized?
I think anonymization is something that is
Okay,
very
so
strong.
that doubles the problem, because the only thing you can then measure is the technical capability and the absolute match.
Well, no, that depends.
So-
no,
so-
that depends on the questions you're answering in the interview questions, right? That's not to do with whether you've anonymized a CV. If you're asking questions that are just about
I'm going to introduce you.
qualifications.
I'm going to introduce you a guy called Ben Williams,
Yeah.
who basically writes games, gamifies people's applications, because it tells you more about their true competencies than actually answering questions and looking at a CV. And he does it for the senior leadership teams at people like Sainsbury's. He's absolutely golden, by the way.
Love it.
He's on the podcast and the later in the current series.
Yeah.
And my daughter, who's a psychology student, went to go and work for him as work experience. So that was really useful. The thing that I would say, if a hiring manager, well, one, we shouldn't be advertising jobs. We should be using the data that we've currently got. And if you're advertising and you don't really have any relationship or knowledge of the candidate, then you're not really adding much value. And actually, you could do that job yourself.
Yeah.
So we should be doing better to know people. But I think the best way to hire, so if I could hire for Access Group with one of my businesses, I would ask to take a half day where you do all of your interviews, so your first and seconds, in one day, and I fill your slots. And I would take responsibility for that, because I think then I need to make sure I get a proper rounded demographic of people who could bring something to you.
Yeah, correct.
And I need to feel confident myself.
Yeah.
So even if my people have got resources and remote teams working for me, I will take responsibility for delivering you what I think is pretty much,
which is right,
a generic, but is your interview process up to that as well?
It does. I mean, we could talk about this for hours, but
but that's
but it goes back to, I'm not disagreeing with any of that, and I think the whole point is that the whole DE&I argument has become about box ticking, or in many ways is seen as box ticking. But the reality is, have you ever read Matthew Syed's Black Box Thinking?
Yeah, he came and did a piece for us in Ibiza specifically on it.
So the whole thing, you've the whole thing of the planes that came back from the war and the bullet holes and everything else.
Yeah.
And they put the armor on the top of the bullet holes, and yet still the same number of planes came back, and then they realized they should have put the armor where the bullets weren't, because those were the planes not coming back. It's the same here. Like, you're looking at the gender diversity, the orientation diversity, the age diversity in your applicant pools, because you're looking for the gaps. You're not looking for who's there, and that's the mistake. But it's the wrong way around. It's like, how diverse is that talent pool, which is then meaning you can then take your knowledge of that client to bring the best people in. And if you're not there, it's not about, again, you shouldn't be beaten up for it. The question is, you should be asking the questions. Why are they not there? And that's how we run an Access. Like, everything we do is done by numbers.
But the thing is, I'm picking a fight with the biggest software company across Europe, right? Which is funny. But can I just ask one other question?
Sure.
Right. And
there's a sparkle in your eye. I wonder where this is going to go.
Only because I love this, because truth on truth. This is the most grown-up, mature conversation on this topic I've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, in my life.
Yeah.
And I've met a lot of customers who basically says, we want a diverse portfolio. I was like, do you?
Yeah.
But do you? You know, it's because you're just ticking boxes. And I've had people tell me that they want females of this age group. It's like, that is not how this shit works. But so the question is, why do Microsoft, Apple, Facebook have the worst attrition rates on the planet? So we've got people who work for them in tech roles less than 2 years.
Yeah.
Now, they talk about forward-thinking, creative, innovative. I saw a thing with Amazon the other day where it says, well, no one's allowed to use PowerPoint in our organization.
Yes.
And I was thinking, well, you're supposed to be forward-thinking, but nobody wants to work for you more than 18 months.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Well, I mean, look, I can say this firsthand, having worked for lots. I mean, I'm working for billionaires now, and I work for billionaires in previous companies. I can contrast that. Yeah, I know. But the difference, they are high performance cultures, regardless of whether they're aggressive cultures or whether they're highly numeric cultures. There's nowhere to hide in those worlds. And the reality is, I think that in high performance environments, you create stress. and therefore some people just aren't made for it, and then there is judgment calls being made. So there's two ways to look at it. Is it about the length of service? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because I've also been in companies with extremely long service and low turnover, but again, what you get no more outside ideas in your business then. So again, go back to the black box thinking. You're not getting diverse thought because you're just listening to the same people that have been there for too long. So diversity, equity, inclusion is not about box ticking. It's about getting different ideas at the table that solve problems in unique ways. And that, to my mind, is why, is it good or bad? There's some working practices in those, and certainly in a couple of those companies you mentioned that you've got to look at, right? But even in the sort of
it's massively toxic.
But ultimately that you still need to make sure that you've got diverse ideas coming in, fresh perspectives, because that's what causes staleness to appear.
Okay, so use and abuse is not a recruitment strategy.
Yeah.
However, go for an agile workforce and be contract first on everything certainly is. So if you know what you're buying, I would always go for contract first. And I think 2024 is going to be the first year where I think it might drift over to all the smart organizations using contractors first and foremost and perm people to plug up the gaps.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that depends on your perspective, because I'm with
I'm a contract guy. So.
Well, okay, I feel like you want all the recruitment. Do you want to do all the recruitment for Access? But I do think it's a combination. So yes, contract work, I'm totally with you. The idea that you can bring in highly skilled, creative individuals that have got very specific niche skills to solve problems you've got, brilliant. But at the same time, you also people need to have a passion. The one thing about a contractor, it'd be hard to create the passion you need to drive through some of the pains.
I'm not sure anymore, because I actually think contractors want to land, put their full input and then complete a job and know that the customer called them back. Mm-hmm. And I think they work equally as well, but I'm a contract guy. So, I'm massively biased. How are we doing with time, Skip?
Alphabet soup time.
Oh,
we're playing some games.
Oh, right.
Right. And then there's so many things I need to cover with you as well. Should we do it?
Here we go.
Yeah. We commissioned Access Group for this. It was very expensive.
Right.
Alphabet soup. Okay. Right. So this is Devin McGee. I'm Paul
nice.
Daniels. Give it a spin, sir.
You've gone to the dogs, Debbie.
Gone to the dogs. D. Okay, we might need the book here. So we're going to try and find a story about D.
Right.
Could have done diversity and inclusion if we thought.
Oh, well, there we are.
if we put any plan around this at all. So this is part of this book thing I'm reading. So I'll give you some clues of D's. Dad, dads and daughters, data, and the importance of data within your business, drivers within your business and what that means, or dashboards.
Yeah.
So what do you use? Flashes? Do you have league tables within the business about business performance? Do you tell people how well or how shit they're doing comparatively?
Yeah.
Or a philosophy like just do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
That
was Starsky and Hutch, wasn't it?
That was the remake.
2000.
That was the remake.
2000, yeah.
I do send, but this is where I've also dated myself quite badly. I'm quite a fan of a Giphy and sending a GIF image to people on Teams and Slack and stuff. But that's like apparently that's the old hat. You're not meant to do that anymore. But that was one of my favorite ones. Just do it.
Is there anything that's D? You're Scottish.
Well,
Donald.
I've just given you my management style. Just sending gifts to people that say do it. I mean, that's how I roll.
Okay, brilliant. I've not paid you to be here, and I want every penny's worth. Give me another day.
Do you know the one I'd probably pick out of that from there? I mean, the whole daughter thing. I mean, I don't know if you've obviously got daughters as well. I mean, my daughter is obviously the apple of my eye, usual situation. But it's just interesting, isn't it? Like I see a lot of parallels in her and she's growing up, and I find myself. I don't know if you've ever done this. Do you find yourself coaching your daughter like it's almost like a business conversation? Like it's like you would at work. Like you're talking about setting goals for yourself and stuff. And suddenly I'm just listening to myself going, "Oh my God, I've become that dad that's just taking work home and having his conversations with his 11-year-old daughter who just wants to go play football." You know,
I've there's a reason why I'm 4 wives in, Apparently they don't work for me.
Yeah.
And I set goals for them. So what you can do today,
Yeah.
and well, if you do that, we can go here for dinner. But if you don't do that, we just go to here. It's like, what are you on about?
Yeah.
And I do it with stink. So Tallulah, Lulabelle, Tinkerbell, Stinkerbell, Stink. So that's how her name came about. And I set her challenges all the time. And she, but to be fair, she now, as she goes to business, does it for herself.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to have done.
Yeah.
But it's quite funny. Yeah. But you have to laugh at yourself going, I've just set her a KPI.
I have. I'm setting objectives. I can just see my wife going, what are you doing? Like, that is your daughter.
So if you're going to play football, don't bother coming home if you've not scored a hat trick.
If you're not measuring how many passes and how many tackles you made, not good enough.
That is absolutely brilliant. I love that. Where should we go to? Are we going to go Malo Maui, hello, Malo. Right, this is the Desert Island Wishes.
Right.
Now, when I wrote this, the idea was you're in a prison on a desert island. And then we realised that actually all the questions I've got, so it's it doesn't work. So the idea is I'm giving you one of anything, so just ignore the whole desert island thing.
Right, okay.
But we committed and paid for the jingle. So I'm going to ask you, but it's a quick fire round.
Right.
Ant or deck?
Okay. I've been on a night out with that pair, amazing, and I would choose Ant. Wild night. Okay, brilliant. Yeah, but you wouldn't let him drive home.
That was too soon. Okay, brilliant. Right, one wish.
I'd wish for a new pair of knees.
What's wrong with your current nieces?
Oh, knees, not nieces, knees.
No, they used to definitely say knees.
Too much sport, too many accidents, too many operations. I definitely would want a new pair of bionic knees.
Brilliant. How many children you got?
2.
Brilliant. Which is your favourite?
You can't ask me that question, surely.
Yeah, I can.
No, love them both. Going to be boring.
One prediction.
The 11, 14, 64, 32, 21.
Okay,
that's the lottery numbers. Done.
I was aware it was the lottery numbers. Best moment you've ever had, and you can't say getting married or having children.
I won't. I would say that moment when you sell your company.
Now, funny you should say that, because I've had 2 people on this podcast who both of you said that was the day they felt the poorest.
Really, I did.
Zeros in the bank, but they lost their sense of worth, purpose, who they are, and they got lost.
But maybe we're touching on something there, then that maybe explains a bit. To my mind, there was that moment.
Couldn't wait to get rid of.
It was just suddenly that release of pressure. Like it was like the moment where you'd kind of reached that top step. I did not experience the down on the other side of that. I literally
not everyone's an entrepreneur, but everyone seems to want to do it, and then they realise it's quite hard.
It's exceptionally hard.
But being an entrepreneur is a really sexy way to live your life.
I wouldn't call it sexy, but yeah.
Well, to be fair, I had bosses who, but we're in a similar position.
Yeah.
Okay, you're responsible for growing a business. I'll see you next month or next quarter.
Yeah.
Trot on.
Yeah. But unfortunately, a true entrepreneur though, I'm in there doing it. So the ideas I make, I have to execute on as well. So like but I think the stress and pressure is there regardless. But I would suggest that was the moment of
cash money. One do over.
Fuck that. I don't believe in do overs. It's all gone. You've got to keep going forward. Like I don't look back.
Wind farms. One guilty pleasure. And we've had some great ones, by the way. So don't let me down. We've had Elton John. We've had Wham. We've had Dirty Burgers.
Do you know? So my guilty pleasure is I love that trashy documentary fly on the wall stuff. So
Robbie Williams.
You know that stuff? Like no, I don't like I don't like any of that stuff that's like mass produced for like Netflix generation. I love the kind of the. So Love Island, my wife is watching it, I'll moan, but I actually secretly quite like it. Like any of that housewife stuff, they quite like the old trashy, gossipy.
So Love Island isn't mass produced.
What? Well, but it is. But it wasn't done. It wasn't one of the recent cohort of documentaries you've all got on Netflix, is what I was meaning, right? Because they're churning everything out. You've got the Beckham stuff, the Robbie Williams stuff, just keep going.
I have watched them all. Louis Theroux.
I do love Louis.
I went back and watched the one with Jimmy Savile.
It's awful, but yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's awful. And even that show the other day was awful as well. But
I know. One person that you wish you could or would have met.
Do they have to be?
There you go, William Wallace.
No, because the answer's not good enough. The answer's not good enough. I guess it's somewhere up there with like
Kylie.
No. Do you know what? If it's like I probably want to meet my man crush. I'd like to meet Mark Wahlberg. I've got a man crush. It's probably a guilty pleasure crossed with a person you wish you could meet.
So you know how he got into film?
No, go on.
So basically, he went training, got this absolutely ripped bod.
Yeah.
And then he put his billboard on the side of buses and on benches and everywhere.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, he got picked up and spotted. And then obviously it did help that his brother was in.
Yeah.
What was his brother
New
in?
Kids on the Block.
New Kids on the Block, yeah. But at the time, you're thinking, so his brother was always going to do better than him?
Yeah.
Wrong. Have you seen his house as well?
No.
Oh, he's got a
See,
sick...
sounds like you're a super fan. There you go. I've unearthed Gary Goldsmith's secret pleasure. There you go.
Yes, to be fair, I don't think it's too late for me. The new hair's coming on that absolute treat. And I'm going to make my way. Look, if Vinnie Jones can get in films, one food that you can eat for the rest of your life.
Is this a death row meal? Is that what you mean by that?
No, it's just one. So for the rest of your life, you can only eat one type of food. So somebody said chicken, somebody said curry.
Oh, I'm gonna go
sushi.
Roast. I'm gonna go roast dinner all day.
Me too.
I would always do roast, but that's kind of a boring answer, isn't it? Is that or Haribo? But you can't survive on Haribo sweets, right? Like that is not.
Well, I reckon you can. You just go faster for 10 minutes and have a row and then be sent to the naughty step.
Anybody puts any of those Tangtastics or any of those like fried eggs and cola bottles, I'll destroy them.
One luxury item that you can't do without.
A luxury item. I would say it's going to be headphones or Spotify. Like they're the things to me. Like not necessarily luxury, but music is everything to me. So I can just love listening to it all times. Everything.
I struggle with music.
Go on.
I much prefer to have the TV on because I like people talking. So if I'm in the car, my missus absolutely hates it. Yeah. I'll have Radio 4 on. Yeah. I'll get into the Archers.
The other thing I discovered the other day, right? This whole thing where you're trying to lock down, but put some controls on the phone so the kids don't get access to certain things. We thought our daughter, who was for some bad behaviour, was on a ban from watching
too much Haribo.
Well, probably, yeah. Just that teenage attitude kicking in. But and so she was sitting in the back of the car all quiet. And we thought she was just listening to Spotify in the back of the car, listening to music. Turns out you can get YouTube through Spotify, and she get all the stuff. So she sat there beautifully quiet for 6 hours in the car. But she's actually got around all the security controls we put in place and just getting away with it. So there you go. Nature finds a way. I think they said that in Jurassic Park, right? Nature always finds a way.
That's pretty good. Your mantra for life.
My mantra for life. Goodness. Always be learning. I think it's always be learning.
I think you just made that up.
Well, it's but probably because I don't live too much. I mean, if you ask my wife, she would probably say...
Yeah, tidy everything away.
No. My wife
cycling
will say,
shit.
My wife will say that'll do. That would be my mantra. I'll go that'll do.
Well, you big into Shrek.
No, she's
that'll do, donkey.
Yeah,
that'll do.
Well, see, it's the other way around. It's like I'll do a job at home, and to her it won't be the right standard. So she'll say that'll do.
One book to read.
I think I've already probably said it. I think the Black Box Thinking by
Matthew Syed
is amazing. The other amazing book, which is just so enlightening in so many different ways, is Talking to Strangers by Malcolm Gladwell. It's a spectacular read.
Matthew was brilliant, but pretty much every other sentence was about him playing ping pong or whiff-waff or table tennis, however you call it.
Yeah, really.
But it was very good.
Yeah, I've got so much time for all his books are actually very well written.
He's really good. Can we go back to 18-year-old? Gone back in time.
Oh wow.
We still have to talk about swimmy runny thing.
Oh, swimming.
Right. So 18-year-old self. You're 18 years old.
Yeah.
It's Friday night. It's Saturday. Right. What are you doing?
What do you mean?
It's Friday night.
Oh, good.
You're 18.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Well, what was everyone else doing when they were 18? I was preparing to binge drink on a Friday night. That was essentially...
Where were you?
Down in Bath.
With that accent? Mm-hmm. When did you come down?
When I was 18. University.
Oh,
I went a
right.
long way from home.
Where's home?
Glasgow.
Glasgow. Hearts or Rangers?
It's Rangers.
Oh, okay. So you're down.
Why choose Hearts though? Normally that question would be Rangers Celtic.
Well, isn't Rangers part of? Isn't Hearts
Hearts
in Rangers?
No, Hearts is Edinburgh. That's the. See, this is. I'll help you out here, guys. It'd be Hearts or Hibs if it was Edinburgh. It's Rangers or Celtic if it's
Right, let
Glasgow.
yourself down there.
Yeah,
I've absolutely.
Right, let yourself
Yes.
down.
I proper fucked myself up there. Yeah.
It was an odd choice.
Yeah, well, actually, how big are we in Scotland? Can you get some stats about how well we're doing in terms of the podcast?
From after this, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well,
We were doing great.
We're both of them in Scotland, aren't watching anymore. It's not a skirt, it's not a dress, it's a man's skirt. So what would you be doing? Would it be down the Union Bar? Would you be going, is it Rose Street? Oh, so I'm going back to Glasgow.
Edinburgh.
Edinburgh.
Rose Street, yeah.
You know, I'm literally,
you're getting this all wrong.
I'm doubling down.
You're getting this all wrong.
What would you be doing in Bath?
That's going to go to the Plug. That's the Union Bar. You're going for your pound a pint. Where can you get a pound a pint these days? It would be 1997. So Spice Girls at the max roundabout back then, I would suspect.
Tell me where you are.
Let me just clarify. That wasn't me listening to Spice Girls. Just going to point that out. But that's the sort of music that was going on back then.
Who would you be listening to?
Oh God, who would it be back then? It's a real
Deacon Blue.
No. Dear me. Well, because I'm Scottish.
Yeah.
Delamitri. Is that going to be the next?
I was quite pleased with Deacon Blue. I just have no idea where they came from. Brilliant. And I would walk. Right. So you're 18. And someone can whisper in your ear and give you a bit of advice. So what would you say to the 18-year-old you?
Do you know, if I could, I said I don't do do-overs, but I would say to my 18-year-old self, don't worry, it'll be all right. Like,
Do you plutz?
I'm definitely somebody I've suffered and still do to this day suffer from anxiety. So it probably was even at 18. It was like just trying to get somewhere super fast. It was like, chill out, dude. Like,
Well, that's quite common. That's quite a common thing. Yeah, it's going to be all right.
It's going to be all right. It's going to happen. The world's going to turn. Opportunity to present itself. Don't force it.
I can't see you being one for imposter syndrome. I mean, you've pulled yourself very well. You talk and orate brilliantly.
Yeah.
But
No, it would be.
am I wrong?
No, I think when I hold myself to a high standard, and then I hate it when I don't hit those standards. Like, and I think that in our world where things change all the time, that's quite hard.
Okay, so in which case I'm going to take the piss.
Go.
You can't do triathletes because you shit on bikes, but you do a lot of running and swimming.
I absolutely see. But do you even know what a swim run is? Or do you need me to
Well,
educate you on that?
I'm guessing it's swimming and running.
Yeah, it is. But so I mean, the clue is in the name. The clue is in the name. But you do it in pairs. You basically wear a wetsuit, but wear a pair of trainers as well. And so you'll do 10 swims and 10 runs, but you'll alternate. And you're tied to somebody else.
What do you mean tied?
Roped. So essentially, just come back from.
This just sounds like some sort of prison break.
Sounds like wet bondage.
Well,
now
well.
Goldsmith's in.
Well,
no,
exactly.
it's a prison break, isn't it?
So I'm just back from doing it in Cannes. So like in Cannes, you start over on the islands. You've been to Cannes? There's the 2 islands out on the far side.
Lagarite.
Yes.
Sharp. every summer.
Well,
not off.
So you get out there onto the fort. There's 500 of us, Attila World Championships. You run around it, you swim to the other island, you run around it, you swim back, then you go back into Cannes, then you run across the beaches, and then you run up there's 2 hills either side, and you got to run up the hills, and then back in the sea, back around. So it's about 45
So you run up to Super Cannes. It's where the water near where the
monument is with the crashed World War II bomber.
Yes. Okay, well, Bill's house is just around the corner, so I'm there every summer.
Well, there you go. So like we do that. September did it this year. It was 7 hours, 14 minutes of pain. I was swimming behind Adi Turner, who's an ex-Olympic swimmer. He swam at Athens. So yeah, it's a lot of fun, but it's my weird challenge. But it doesn't involve a bike, and the reason for that is I'm so tight. I hate bikes because they're so expensive, and so like for me, it's just a wetsuit, pair of trainers, off you go.
I rode to Belgium once as torture. And I trained, had a cycling coach, did everything you could do, came back, and I gave my bike to Lula's boyfriend to make sure I never fucking got on him again.
Honestly.
And he was called, I had this road bike, called Dave, and then I had a street bike called Chaz and Dave.
Nice.
And then I ended up putting so many sort of French parts on David, he became David.
That's like that trigger one from Only Fools and Horses.
It's exactly that, same bike.
Yeah.
Exactly that.
Yeah, it's like me in golf clubs. I've got a set of golf clubs in that shed. I'm Scottish. I should love golf. Should love whiskey. But again, I'm an unusual Scot. And I think the last time I played golf was playing on Troon just before the Open, and it was pouring a gale. It cost 200 quid for the round, and I was hacking a ball from left to right. I was like, that's it, done. I'm done. After 15 years of trying to play golf, I'm out.
We're getting Russell Clements on this soon, who was the former CEO of S3, and we were born in the same hospital for a few years apart. We went to play at Ealing, and he snap hooked 2 drives off the tee, and one hit the clubhouse, one went across the practice green, and the general manager came out and just said, "You got to be more careful." Russell's gone, "Do you think I was fucking trying to do that?" He goes, "I'm trying to be fucking careful," and he basically dropped his bags and said, "I'm never playing again," and that's golf's loss.
I mean, honestly,
walked off.
Honestly, if there's a cliche in this world, it's true. Like, golf is a good walk round. Like, I'm at the point now where, no bikes, no golf clubs.
That's brilliant. Right. So, now I want to test you on some of your lateral thinking.
Oh, God. These are the tests I hate.
Okay. Read it.
Oh, wow. This is no expense spared, is it? Very premium.
Yeah. So we got some, what was it called?
I can't remember what you ended up. It was dad. You've basically got a bunch of dad jokes and riddles.
Oh, yeah.
Try to outsmart people.
I've got riddles and dad jokes.
Did this come from Bard as well?
No.
I mean, have we got some copyright concerns?
Okay, we go. But you should be good at this stuff.
Why?
What has 4 letters, sometimes has 9, always has 6, but never has 5?
Oh, Gary, come on. This is going to be embarrassing. I have no idea.
Yeah. I'm telling you. What has 4 letters?
You can't just repeat.
What?
Sometimes has 9.
Sometimes.
Always has 6.
Always.
But never has 5.
Never.
And the answer is...
all those words.
Oh.
Letters. What has 4? Sometimes... you're shit up.
Oh.
He's such a smart ass because he's got to the answers.
Well, these aren't his, are they?
No.
Like, he just robbed this off the internet.
Exactly.
It's like that story he told about the wedding. He just robbed that idea of the keys in the bucket. Did you put the bucket in the middle of the dance floor, by the way?
I only know 25 letters of the alphabet. I don't know why.
What, do I need to answer that one as well?
No. This is me being funny. Why don't oysters donate to charities? Because they're always shellfish. Right.
These are dad jokes.
Fuck off. Here we go.
But yeah, these are dad jokes.
Factoids.
Uh-huh.
What percentage of DNA do humans share with bananas? It's the nearest 1%.
I mean, that's impossible, but I'm going to guess at 55. Oh!
50%!
I'm telling you.
What's up?
Pharmacist, I'm telling you. That's that biology background.
How do butterflies taste? And don't say crunchy, right? How do butterflies taste?
With their antenna?
With their feet. This is good. I'm going to ask you one more, right? I'm not a toy, though many use me for fun. I'm big and heavy, but can be easily spun. I'm not a toy, though many use me for fun. I'm big and heavy.
Is this a rampant rabbit?
But can I easily spun? What am I?
I've given you my answer. It's a rampant rabbit, isn't it?
It's a globe.
Oh,
brilliant.
God.
Oh, when we did a rebrand for Computer Futures once, I was really big into productizing. We're going back like 20 odd years now.
Yeah.
And it was easier to get people to sell a product rather than actually do that questioning. So I don't think salespeople should ask questions.
Correct.
I think now they should actually know what your customers' needs and wants are.
Sell this pen.
Brilliant. I've got to tell you about a pen one as well. But we one of the products we use, we called it Liberator. And not realizing it was the rampant rabbit equivalent in the Netherlands. It's like, oh Jesus Christ, Gary, you can't do this. Once upon a time, somebody came into to do an interview with Russell Clements, and he had this Mont Blanc pen, and Russell said, "Sell me that pen." The bloke went out, chucked it out the window, sat down and said, "I hear you're in the market for a new pen."
Brilliant.
And I said, "That's amazing." I said, "Well, did you give him the job?" I went, no, and I gave him an invoice for 120 quid.
Talk about cultural sensitivities. So like when I lived in North America, I've learned very quickly there's a lot of Britishisms, but the saying "work like a Trojan," which I'm meaning to mean work hard.
Yeah.
But Trojan is a condom brand out there, so when you say that, work like a Trojan, you've got a room full of people in management looking at you going, why are you referencing condoms in this meeting?
You just got to get it fucked. Right, are we nearly there?
We're there.
Are we there?
We are there.
Okay.
Well, we've reached the destination, have we?
Brilliant. Just before I finish,
yes.
You've been brilliant, by the way. I'm really going to the spirit of it. Love you very much for that. And what an impressive human being you are.
Oh, thank you.
And again, there's billions of people queuing up to desperately want your job. So good luck with that. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that maybe I should?
Oh. I would suggest probably not. I think we've covered a lot of ground today, Gary. I mean, look for me, I've enjoyed it. Great experience. You're not a bad compare. This is, and it's Christmas, and it's.
I'll take. No, it's not Christmas. This is definitely going out about March.
March.
So yeah, this is probably happy Easter. We're quite a long way ahead. But there is something I want to say.
What?
I think you're the first to say that when you actually merge brands together,
yes,
it doesn't always go right, and then you have to adapt to that.
Yeah.
So I would like to applaud you for the work that you've done. So Vin Cherry was a very unusual acquisition. The principals were so heavily involved.
Yes.
When you took the brand over, what the normal, it's a little bit, I don't know if you're into your Star Trek, but
yep.
You indoctrinate them into the Borg, and then they become an access brand.
Yeah.
And I think you've put your foot on the ball. Mm-hmm. And decided to separate again, but the things that they weren't good at, make sure that they are access good.
Yeah.
And things that made them special, try to bring back.
Yeah.
And it's having that adaptability to these things.
Yeah.
It's not easy putting the businesses together, is it?
No, it gets harder once you've acquired a whole load of businesses, because you've suddenly got like the systems that the acquirer has. You're trying to bring everything into it, but it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger because you're acquiring all these companies. So. And then you've got to change all the systems that the company you acquire on. So that in and of itself becomes hard, because now you've got like CRM data. Think about that. Like you're trying to take a company's CRM and its intelligence and then add it to what you've already got, but then you've got overlapping. Like the data problem becomes actually more of your inhibitor, because then that slows down all the decisions. But that ultimately is the key thing when you're acquiring, is to make sure you've got a plan around about the data you're bringing in, so you don't slow the teams down. But then you've got to keep the essence, because you're buying them because you want to learn from them. And that is that. I mean, going back to the Borg example, their whole thing is about not actually you're going to do.
That was quite a random analogy, wasn't it?
But it's still the tone of that's right. You got they're trying to learn, and like we have to learn and take the best of it, and then make sure that we bring that alive, because the Vincherry made a massive difference to the market. Like it's just its brand, and it's
it just ripped up bullhorn. Yeah. It's quite funny that we're both techie and nerdy, and you're significantly more sporty. But no, brother, live long and prosper. I would like, as we do with all of our guests, give you the final last word. So, is there anything you'd like to say just to sign off, bud?
Nope. Thank you very much, Gary. Thanks for the opportunity. Loved it.
Brilliant.
So, see you all
with
soon.
Another wicked guest, James E. Thank you very much. Thank you for continuing to follow with us. Peace and love, and live long and prosper. GG out.